Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vassell. Welcome to Week in Review. You know, we put out a lot of videos here at the Dice Tower, and no one can watch them all. But if you want to pick and choose which ones are best for you, that's what this video is. It's a summary of all the things we've done last week. And then if something sounds interesting, go down to our description of the video, click the link there, and watch the full review. Here we go.
Hey everybody, I'm Z Garcia. Here's what I reviewed last week. So I reviewed Stellarion, which I rated a 7 out of 10. This is a solo-only, or two players also, game from Shadi Torby, the designer of all the Omniverse games. Whole series of games, many of them very interesting, very clever. I think this one is, in a bubble, a very interesting game as well. I think compared to the other ones, it suffers a little bit. It's not as innovative as some of the earlier games in the series. I think it is a little flatter. I think it makes a worse first impression for one thing and requires the included little modules a bit more. You really need that extra content. You need a little extra flavor to get the game going. Whereas some of the previous games, they had little modules that were included in them, and they were certainly flavorful, but it felt like the main game didn't need them as badly as this one does. It's just a bit of a slow burn, I suppose, and I wonder if this is one I'll keep coming back to in a few years, like I do with some of the other ones. I reviewed Orichalcum, which I rated an 8.5 out of 10. This one is an excellent game that feels like it's been boiled down to the absolute essentials. The game is a race to 5 points. That's it. As soon as someone has 5 points, they win the game. The game feels both incredibly tactically rich, and like every turn is so important because that race to 5 points is so tight, and yet lighthearted and colorful, and like you are just doing fun things in this world. So it manages to feel and give the player that feeling on both extremes. Every moment is incredibly important, like a Dune Imperium game. Yet, lighthearted, doesn't take itself too seriously, just roll some dice and kill some baddies, right? That sort of thing. I think it's a fantastic offering. Really enjoy this one. Bruno Catala, Johans, Goopy make a great team, apparently. I already knew I liked Catala games, and, they've done it again. So there you go. I reviewed Star Wars The Clone Wars, which I rated an 8.5 out of 10 as well. And this one is a pandemic system game, obviously with a Star Wars theme on top of it. Now, we've already had, and this is a bit similar to the World of Warcraft Wrath of the Lich King pandemic system game. This one is from the same designer and sort of a similar game, but I found this one to be even better. I thought the World of Warcraft one, I don't like that theme as much, so that's certainly part of it, but I also thought the gameplay lacked a little replayability. I thought it had that potential to get flat and sort of save me very quickly. Whereas I find this one to have a lot more plug and play parts that keep it fresher. You have certain bad guys you're fighting against, and that's going to change game to game. There's, I think, 5 they offer, 4 or 5, that you can change who you're going up against. You want to play against Darth Maul, you can do that. There are mission cards, which is how you win the game. There's a whole stack of those. You go through 5, The whole thing has, obviously, all your player characters know who you are, but the whole thing has this nice malleable nature to it as to how you set up, how you play, and I really enjoy that. I think some of the ideas in it are core pandemic, as you would expect, but some are very different and incredibly original. It really does take some parts of pandemic, which I thought were locks. I thought there were things you could never change about any pandemic system game, and tosses them out and replaces them with things that work equally well and bring a breath of fresh air. So I really enjoyed this one. And then lastly, I reviewed Marvel Snap, which is an app, but sort of a card game, and I really like it. I think Marvel Snap is fantastic. I gave it a 9. Now, it's one of those free-to-play apps in which a big pursuit of the app makers is for you to spend money on microtransactions and whatnot, right? You can do that. You cannot. It's up to you, right? If you get really hooked on it, it has the potential to sort of, try to sort of pull at your strings to get you to spend money. But putting all of that aside, I probably will spend a little bit of money on it, but I haven't yet, and I've been having an absolute blast with it. I think the game, the everything wrapped around it that comes with apps, many apps in this day, it is what it is. The game at its core is excellent. I really like the game. I think it's fast-paced. It is vibrant. It is it has a great mix, especially for the game length, of luck and tactics. Because a match in this game is 4 minutes, maybe. You are playing 6 rounds, and in each of those rounds, you get some energy to play out cards. You're trying to control 2 or 3 locations. That's it. I mean, you unlock things. You get new abilities and new cards to mess around with. If you like Marvel and you enjoy Hearthstone, Magic Arena, or Magic Online, that sort of thing, I think you're really going to dig Marvel Snap and could easily become a new favorite. So there you go, folks. That's it for me. I will see you on the next one.
Hey, Chris here, and this week I took a look at several different games, starting with Connecting Flights. I gave a 3. I really recommend you do not purchase this game. This is a route connection type of game that is incredibly tight monetarily and just not very fun. It's very logistical puzzle in a way that I didn't enjoy, and I tend to enjoy that, so I don't give out bad scores like this lightly. I do not recommend it. Competitive nor cooperative. Maybe it's fine solo, but it lost me after 2 very bad attempts. Next up, Siege of Valeria, jumping up to a 7.5. I like this. A solo tower defense game that uses a dice system, tons of mitigation. Very exciting. I really like this one. So 7.5 from me. It would go higher, except I feel like I might want some new stuff to kind of mix it up. There is an expansion, and so I might take a look at that. Next up, Stellarion, 7.5. This is the next in the Oniverse of games. Onirum being the other one that's more famous. Stellarion is good, but it takes some plays to kind of reveal itself, and I feel like it needs the modules added in to really kind of ramp it from a clever mechanism to a really fun game. So 7.5 from me. Next up, Orichalcum, I gave an 8. This is a neat, very approachable game, but it has some real depth to it. I had a lot of fun with it. There's a lot of steps to each turn, but they all flow together really well. There's not an easy way to describe what you're doing, but definitely a review worth checking out. Building up terrain, fighting monsters, all with a very simple open card draft kind of a thing going on. I liked it. 8 for Orichalcum. Next up, Marvel Snap. I also gave an 8. This is an app game, of course, and this is one that I wouldn't mind playing a physical version of. You couldn't do as wacky, zany things as you do in the digital thing, so it works very well as a digital game. I hate the app part of it, though. The multiple currencies, the microtransaction-y kind of feel, the slow unlocking, but as the game part, that's an 8 from me. The app I would give like a 3. And then Star Wars, The Clone Wars. 8.5. I really like this. This is a pandemic system game. I really welcome all the changes that change this from the original Pandemic. I like the theme a lot. I like the setting. I like the Jedi that they chose for you to play as, and the characters obviously leans into the Clone Wars and the Tales of the Jedi and all the recent stuff going on with Star Wars, but I'm here for it. Incredibly well-made game, very fun, so 8.5. And lastly, Dune, Imperium, Immortality, I gave a 9.5. I like this expansion so much, even a little bit more than the Rise of Ix expansion. What it adds is so clean and clever, 2 more tracks. It adds a little bit of stability in a game that has randomness that I really appreciate. Some new clever strategies, some powerful, cool cards that you really have to invest into. But man, it beefs up your starting hand. Everything about this expansion is a home run for me, so 9.5. Absolutely recommend it. And that has been my week.
All right, week in review. This week I took a look at Marvel Snap. This is an app game based on Marvel stuff, kind of like you're going over different lanes. Super, super quick. We talked about it for quite a bit. Make sure to check out that review if you want to. I give it an 8.5. I've enjoyed the game so far, but we'll see if it stays that high. Also, we took a look at Dune Immortality expansion. This has like the Telexu with different resources you're kind of gathering, kind of like you putting your warriors in the tanks and kind of going up a track there as well. It also adds grafting cards. Super fun expansion. I love Dune Imperium. This gets a a 9 from me. Definitely enjoy that game, and I enjoy what the expansion brings to it. Simple to add in and a lot of fun. So that's what I took a look at this week.
Hello everyone, this week I reviewed Ark Nova. It's a phenomenal game. I've really enjoyed the action selection choices. As you take actions, they slide down, getting worse, but other ones have moved up to get better. You're playing on this map with hexagon tiles, building out your zoo and playing awesome animals into it. It's a lot of choices, a long game, but it deserves the 9 out of 10 score from me.
Hey there everybody, it's Mike DeLisio, and this week I was part of 4 reviews. First up was Star Wars The Clone Wars, a pandemic system game. I gave this a 6 out of 10, and here's the thing. I know that these are 2 very popular kind of intellectual properties. Star Wars, which I love. Pandemic, which many of the games in the series I really very highly like. But for one reason or another, this game kind of left me cold at the end, where I didn't necessarily know that I wanted to play it anymore. Mechanically, it's rock solid, as all of the Pandemic games are. And this one also actually changes up the formula quite a bit. It doesn't necessarily feel like the base vanilla Pandemic experience. But again, it just was not one that I felt the need to come back to. So I gave it a 6 out of 10. Mechanically solid, just not necessarily for me. Next up is Stellarion. This is the newest game in a line of games called the Oniverse series. They are primarily solitaire games, although you can play most of them 2-player as well. Stellarion is a deck management game, and just the base rules, the base setting of the game is a bit too light for me. Basically, there's not enough game there. But the game comes with modules included in the box, and so I am reviewing this as a holistic package. And with some of those modules added, particularly the one that adds a board presence, I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. I can recommend it when you add in some of those modules. Just the base game's a little too slight, but you add some of those modules in, and it's one that I can recommend. Next up is Siege of Valeria. This is a solo-only tower defense style game in the Valeria line of games. I'm giving this an 8 out of 10, a solid recommendation. This is a game that I feel like does a lot of things well. While it takes a type of game, this tower defense type of game, and has a lot of those familiar kind of tropes to it, it also does some nice little change-ups to that system. The cards that you are kind of defeating become powers that you can then use to create some nice combos. It's a game where you are trying to defeat a certain number of siege engines before 3 different loss conditions. You have 1 win condition, 3 loss conditions. I really do enjoy Siege of Valeria. And then finally, Orichalcum, which is going to be the English version name of the game, or Orichalcum, which is the version we played. This is a Bruno Catala co-design that I absolutely adored. I gave this a 9 out of 10, seal of excellence. This is a game that does so many things right. It is lightning fast. It is a race to 5 points, and it feels like you're shot out of a cannon right away. Every turn you're taking feels like it's propelling you forward, and every turn that everyone else around the table is taking is propelling them forward. It has this neat idea of temporary points, temporary victory points, and permanent victory points, but the game ends immediately as soon as somebody gets 5. So there's this feeling right away of, okay, everyone's in this, we're all rushing towards this kind of grand finale, and it does the pacing really well. It's a game that actually has some slight elements that remind me of another game by Bruno Catala, one of the co-designers, called Cyclades, but in a much lighter, much faster, family weight type of a game. I really like Orichalcum a lot. All right, well, that's it for me this week. Let's keep it moving.
Okay, so for me, I had Shark Feeding Frenzy, which was a terrible game. And I was so excited about it. Sharks moving around, attacking each other, eating food, sounded fun. Unfortunately, it is random. So I gave that one a 2 out of 10. Really bad. Cactus Town, I gave a 6 out of 10 to. This is an asymmetrical Old West game. One person's sheriffs, one person's outlaws, and it's programming. There's a lot of good ideas in it. It's the randomness that keeps it from being higher for me, but I can see families really enjoying it. I also gave a 6 to Monster Soup. This is where you're sticking your hand in a bag and feeling around for different pieces. It's a kid's game. My kid enjoyed it. You know, it's exactly as I just described it. I also gave a 6 out of 10 to Trudvang. Trudvang is a big giant game from Simon, and it has a good story, good Viking flavor to it, some cool ideas in it. They push the envelope in certain areas, but it comes down to a bag pull, and I like bag pulls, but it just feels a little random, and the fights get a little samey after a while, which keeps me from liking it more. Then we have, let's see, Overstocked. Overstocked is a game, this one I gave a 7 to, a little filler style game where you are playing and getting your little Furbies, and it's just a very simple game that you play in between other games. Then we have Perfect Shot. This one gets a 6 from me. Perfect Shot is a game in which you're putting cards on top of other cards and looking through the holes to see what's underneath them. It's fine. It's an interesting gimmick, but I don't think it holds up to repeat plays. Marvel Snap is a 7. Marvel Snap is a game, it's an app, and I've played this one a ton. I love Hearthstone, but Marvel Snap, even though it's a little addicting and there's a lot to play and I enjoy it, there are some problems I have with it. You have to watch the full video to see all our different thoughts on it. Then we have Sounds Fishy, a party game in which you're trying to figure out who the other liar is. 7 out of 10. And Headspin, a 1 versus 1 game in which you are spinning dials based on a little logic puzzle that's in the middle of the table. An easy one, but speed is involved. 7 out of 10. Dungeon Fighter Collector's Edition. I love the silliness and ridiculousness and weirdness of Dungeon Fighter, and this version amps it up to 11, giving it a rating of 8.5. But, I mean, I just really think this one's fun. It's not for everybody, but it is for me. And then we took a look at the Dune Imperium Immortality expansion, the second expansion. Amazing. 9.5. I love this expansion. Definitely, if you like Dune Imperium, you need this expansion. I also talked about my favorite games from Bruno Catala. I did an At the Table interview with Eric Summer, my co-host, and Emerson Matsucci. We started our tournament. We're going to do a weekly game of Disney Sorcerer's Arena. May the best player win. You have to watch that to see who won. And there was a top 10 list that I wasn't involved in, but top 10 games a Bard would love. We also put up a pretty big contest, so go check out our big Great Bag giveaway. And we did all our live shows, Board Game Smorgasbord, crowd surfing, and more. That's what's been on the Dice Tower this week, folks. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Tom Vassell. We'll see you next time.